Hi guys, so my name's Samantha, and in this week's module, we read a few of the reading, or we read all the readings, but I'm gonna start off with talking about the how we read the Future Craft, and they all started about how the authors gave a great example about how we view the future. So in the early 1900s, Boston Globe was asked about like how we imagine the future and like what innovations would we have now. And he said like innovations such as like sidewalks and well like moving sidewalks. And obviously we don't have that now, but he would have never thought about the innovations we do have, such as Uber. This kind of forces us to rethink about how we think about the future. Like, is the thinking of the future even worth it, or is it just like a waste of time? In urban development, Futurecraft authors stated that we must employ design to adapt with the future to solve problems and neglect previous behaviors, which can be considered design sciences, which we must reinforce to influence the city or area positively. Then we also watched the video Future by a Futurist, where Watson explained that we must think of the new and upcoming futuristic ideas. And as urban planners, we have to use data in different ways to identify future problems. And so we can kind of sort of prevent them. And even though the future may be distant and not predictable at all, we still can influence it. And in the reading, What is a City? The authors kind of make us wonder and identify different perspectives of what a city is. For some, it means opportunities, benefits, and dangers. And but we're really able to see the author's view of a city, and mostly we can all agree that cities are a combination of different urban elements, such as social significance and capital circulation. In the reading, we also learned the meaning of geographic plexus, which is an economic organization which is filled with networks and interactions which can be a factor in the defining of a city. Declan?
So, in What is the City, there's a great, we get the great aspect of what nature is to a city and how the destruction of nature is ultimately what leads to a city in almost every example known to man. When it comes to our modern, daily environment, things that we can connect that to is the movie WALL-E, how they destroyed their environment for, transactional their transactional relationship and how corporations took over, and it was about greed and money, and we can kind of see that in our daily life, how profit over people kind of going on right now. And yeah, the biggest thing is really how they're losing their individuality, they're losing their environment like Chicago did, cutting down all the forests and having to go even farther for forests, eventually losing their status as the commercial hub and then turning to industrialization. Um, so yeah, back
And
to
then
Sam.
we also chose to read Cities in Our Future since we thought it was like pretty relevant and we're able to like really identify different things that had made sense and to tie into everything. So we chose Cities in Our Future by Ellen Parsner, and we noticed how North American cities are defined in her opinion, that cities are filled with artifacts, technology, resources, culture, and history, which we can see in the movie WALL-E.
Then for the next part, we read Jane Jacobs' excerpt on the kind of problem a city is. She describes cities as being a problem of organized complexity. This is in contrast to what is usually been thought of as disorganized complexity of a system that we can analyze with numbers. We can attach values to things, such as how city planners have taken the Olympian approach in attaching people into households. They use those households to reorganize, remap the city for different purposes. One of the big purposes they tried to use for was slum control. They wanted to get everybody out of the slums, wanted to improve quality of life. However, that system is rooted in flaws that basically take shape when you think about how cities really function, which is a state of organized complexity. They're an organism, they function as such. There are so many different processes that are made up of multitude of different actions, inactions, reactions. There's so much that goes into the simplest of aspects that we don't see when we use the analytical approach. And Jacob says it best when she says, although the interrelations of their many factors are complex, there is nothing accidental or irrational about the ways in which these factors affect each other. Declan?
So, as we can conclude, cities aren't individual organisms, but rather they're a whole that are connected, interconnected with each other, and that's what drives advancement. We can see that through city networks, allowing a platform to, for discourse and regarding certain issues faced in urban environments, such as climate change, pollution, homelessness, and those advancements can lead to things like international financial institutions, where those could play a major role in future cities when it comes to lending practices, investing into urban programs like integrated city systems, future urban mobility, sustainability, and resilience systems. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.